Hey everyone, it's John from Seattle Coffee Gear. I'm here in the commercial kitchen. Today we're going to talk about high-end espresso machines and what makes them more expensive and why you might want to consider one. So let's jump in and talk about that. The main thing we're going to focus on today is multi-boiler machines and why you might be interested in a multi-boiler machine. With us here today, I have the La Marzocco Strada AV ABR. That means it has the scales, and these buttons here mean it's the AV. This is a multi-boiler machine, so it has one boiler for steaming and then individual boilers for brewing. With that comes more materials, separate heating elements, more labor to put it all together, and so generally the cost for a machine that has multi-boilers is going to be higher than something that's a dual boiler machine or something that's a heat exchanger machine. So usually when we're talking to people who are opening a coffee shop or who are buying a machine to upgrade the machine in their cafe, they're trying to figure out why is this machine so much more expensive than another machine. And the amount of boilers and the boiler style and design has a lot to do with that. So let's talk about why you might want a machine that is multi-boiler. One of the reasons you might want that is because you can set the machine's boilers at different temperatures for different coffees. So I don't know if you can see the screen here. We'll hopefully get a shot of this so you can see the numbers on it. But we have the boiler for this group set at around 196, and then the boiler for this group set at around 201. It's a 5-degree difference between the two. Normally I wouldn't have this one set so low, but I just wanted to use that as a good contrast for the video. So having different temperatures for different coffees can be useful if you're trying out different coffees and you want to taste a coffee at one temperature versus another. So if you're trying to do some sort of multi-roaster concept, or if you're using a lot of different coffees for your coffee shop, a machine like this could make sense for those purposes. One caution for that is if you have one group set to one temperature, that's your main espresso, and another group set to a different temperature for a different espresso, you're probably going to wear the group for your main espresso more quickly than your one for the other espresso. So you're changing your gaskets more in this one. Over time, you're going to wear the solenoid more, so keep that in consideration. This machine would be great in like a roasting space or something like that. And just briefly, the reason you might want different temperatures is because different coffees at different roast levels like different temperatures. So a darker roasted coffee has been broken down more in the roasting process. And so the water, as water gets hotter, it has more energy, so it's able to take more out of the coffee. A darker roasted coffee has already been broken down quite a bit, so the water doesn't need as much energy to take the solubles out of that coffee to give you espresso or coffee. At a lighter roasted coffee, it has not been broken down as much, and so the water needs to be hotter, needs to have more energy to take more out of that coffee to get into the flavor profile that you want. That's a super basic level of what that means. I probably said some stuff that doesn't exactly line up there, so just take that with a grain of salt, but that's kind of a basic understanding of why you'd want different temperatures. Another reason you may want to consider a multi-boiler machine is for temperature stability. So I could have both of these groups set at the same temperature, but if I pull a shot on this group, the temperature of this one is not being affected, because as I'm pulling a shot over here, water is coming out of that boiler to come through my coffee, and that has to be replaced by more water. On some machines, that's just cold water replacing that. On this machine, the water is preheated, so it's not just adding cold water and dropping your boiler temperature. But even though this machine is pretty stable because that water is preheated, pulling a shot over here won't affect the temperature of this group at all. So if I am pulling a shot and then pulling another shot, my coffee is going to stay more consistent because my temperatures are more consistent. So that's one of the benefits of having a multi-boiler machine, is just temperature stability from group to group. this was a dual boiler machine and these were sharing one boiler, if I pulled a shot on this group, it would pull water into that boiler and drop the temperature of the whole boiler. And then if I pull a shot over here, it's affecting the temperature of this group and vice versa. On a machine like that, you don't have to worry about that, so you just have greater consistency. Now, is that consistency gonna be noticeable? Maybe if somebody comes to your coffee shop every single day and your baristas are trained really well, they're gonna notice that the espresso is always really good. Or somebody might complain on a less expensive machine that isn't as temperature stable or consistent, that the coffee isn't as good every single day. Maybe it's great one day, not as good the other. These are all considerations that you want to make when you're looking at a machine like this. It's pretty complex, so you can always talk to us over the phone or email or chat. Always good options there. Other machines like this Strata would be the Rocket Espresso R9. That's a multi-boiler machine. A lot of the Slayer models, those are multi-boiler machines. And then you get into the machines like the T3 machines from Simonelli and Victoria Arduino, and those have more temperature stability. They have like 3 boilers essentially on the way to the group, and they're independent of each other. So those are even more expensive than a machine like this would be. I hope you guys learned something today about multi-boiler machines. Before we go, I thought it'd be cool to pull a shot on these simultaneously at different temperatures with the same coffee and see if we get any different results. So let's try that. Today I'm using a more darkly roasted coffee. It's the Whirling Dervish from Batdorf and Bronson. Had that on the wrong setting, but let's see what we got here. Yeah, that's too much coffee. I was going for about 17.5 grams. That was about 18. Get a little more out of there. Almost there. That's good. Got that set up. Can't remember if I purged that one. That's great. Take care of that in a second. All settled. All right, so now I have my 2 portafilters dosed with the same amount of coffee, distributed in the same way. Let's tamp them evenly as best I can. There's 1. And here's 2. All right, and those are pretty consistent and level there. So let's put them in the machine. Give it another purge here. And here we go. So interestingly enough, that one at a higher temperature dropped a little bit more slowly than the one at the lower temperature. We'll see if that catches up. I'm going to stop that one and stop that one. And let's see, just under a gram difference between the two. This one pulled in 24 seconds, this one pulled in 26 seconds. That 5 degree difference between the two of these here. So pretty close, but let's go ahead and taste those and see if there's any difference. So my lower temperature is going in the gray cup. And my higher temperature is going in the white cup. And I'm going to start with the higher temperature actually. Not bad. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it would be good to have kind of a midpoint between the two of those. The one at the lower temperature tastes a little bit more acidic, a little bit more like the cherry and fruit flavors come forward. There's not as much sweetness or smoothness in the body of it. This one tastes a little bit more chocolatey, but almost a little bit more harsh on the chocolate tones, so a little bit more bitter or burnt. So I think a midpoint right in between these two, maybe 199 degrees or something like that would be the sweet spot for this coffee. But I probably wouldn't have known that if I hadn't pulled these side by side. So that was a cool test. I hope this brought some clarity for you guys and you enjoyed watching it. If you have a question about anything we talked about, leave us a comment down below. If you want to see more videos like this, more crew reviews, more head-to-head, stuff like that, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for when we launch new videos. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks.